All right, welcome into the Bobby Carpenter Show, and we appreciate you being on here with us. It's been an eventful start to the week thus far, getting the news and the information about Ohio State, who they're going to be playing, where they were ultimately playing. And I'd like to open up with this, Schlegel, and it's pretty interesting here. By the way, if you're watching on FanDuel TV, thank you so much. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave comments. Been trying to get to your comments as much as possible in Tailgate Talk and try to get as many of those out of there because, Schlegel, we know that it's important to answer and comment and talk about some of the things that our Buckeye fans have questions about, what they're feeling.
All fans,
what they're feeling. Sometimes only fans, Schlegel. So that's
they made more money than the entire NBA players combined. $6.6 billion. Business is booming.
You on OnlyFans, Schlegel?
No, I just saw it on the Instagram when they just had a Doomajink on there. I am not.
$6.6 billion for OnlyFans, really?
For OnlyFans, like, I don't know what they call them.
Influencers
or content providers or whatever.
Entertainers.
Yeah, entertainers. But hey, man, they made more than the mind-blowing fact to me was NBA players make $4.9 billion.
Oh, yeah, coach. They make a lot.
They do.
They make a ton of money. You got to think the NFL salary.
Juan Soto, $700 million. I mean, we're in the world where, Dr. Evil money.
Yeah.
Dr. Evil money is being dished out to individuals.
Well, I mean, they'll be wheeling him out there when he's like 42 years old to get like a DH appearance like once a week while he's still making like $45 million a year. So, I mean, I don't know if I would have signed a contract to that length for him. I mean, he is pretty young. I think he's 26 still, so they're going to get a lot of his prime. The last 5 years of that deal will look like an albatross, as most of them ultimately do. But Ben Stevens put this out there once this came out, once the sites were released, and it was pretty sweet. And if we're going to toss that up there, Pat, we got it in the workbook.
Oh yeah, that's a good.
Well, because it just gives you the iconic picture of it, and Schlegel. I have played in 2 of the stadiums. I've been to 3. I've seen all 4. But when you think about like where these on-site playoff games are going to be, we talked about obviously the game being at the Shoe, how sweet that is. Then you've got one at Beaver Stadium at Penn State, you got Notre Dame Stadium, and then DKR Texas Memorial Stadium. That's pretty amazing. And I think like when you talk about iconic venues, that's checking all the boxes there. And I know have you ever played in Austin, Schlegel, like in high school or anything? Or did you ever, and I'm sure you've been down there and watched games.
No, I mean, I've never been to a game there. See, last time I was down there, I believe, Charlie, I was down there one time with Charlie, and I was down there one time with Tom, just checking out the facilities, and they were doing like massive renovations because it's hard. Like it's right off the highway.
Yeah.
And they actually have to shuttle to where they practice.
Really? Like, you can see it right off. Weird. You can see it right off 35. And we drive to San Antonio for training camp. Like you could see the fields, you could see everything. I didn't realize like it was pinned right up there against I-35 like that.
Yeah. And logistically, like they have to go up a hill, and parking down there is a nightmare. 1, you're in Austin. Parking's terrible. Traffic's terrible. 2, like their practice facility, and like, how our guys will be at practice and they go right through the indoor and they can do like training in the indoor or in the weight room. Like they have to bus to these different locations. So it's a completely different like logistical nightmare they have to work through. Nothing like Pitt though, where you have to completely go off site for all your stuff, which is absolutely terrible. But you think about those venues, and Ross Bjork put out there how special this is. And while I was talking about our fans yesterday about going to the games, if you have those tickets and you choose to do so, making memories. Because I just remember one of my greatest memories at Ohio State at a home game was that versus Texas. Because I remember, obviously didn't finish the way that we wanted to, Bob, but trying to get out of there, we just walked. Like I just walked back to the Woody, and people were still out there partying. Like it was amazing. It was special.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty sweet. Like Notre Dame is going to be awesome. DKR, Happy Valley, like they're going to be tremendous. And I'm hoping, they start talking about the get in the door price. I want to say you can get in Penn State. I think it's the cheapest for like 100 and some. Texas is right around Ohio State. I think they're both in the 2s. And then Notre Dame is like ridiculous right now, trying to get in there, $600-700 a pop.
Wow.
The environment needs to be really good, and it's been kind of warm. Ohio State has been practicing outside, and so let's talk about the ability to practice and prepare, in the environment that you're going to be in. And there is some elements there where it does start getting cold, and that's not something you're used to. And there could be some moisture, like how that plays in and how important it is to get acclimated to that.
Well, part of it is they're practicing on grass, but I mean, grass right now it feels super hard, but it's still just better on your joints than field turf. I just
Yeah.
remember like guys in the league, they're like, man, if we go inside, especially those guys that are longer that have played a lot of ball, they're like, man, I might have to take a vet day, So, it's with those guys, it's like, what are the reps that I need to get in? I got to get them in. Like all the other accumulation of low impact volume, like, do we necessarily need it? But they're in college. So they're practicing outside. Again, it's nice weather right now in Columbus, Ohio, but just still moisture on the ball. If it's colder or whatever, like you got to go play in those elements to the best of your ability because you train like you fight like you train. Now, once it starts to impede on the skill development during practice, and guys, remember, skill development is an ongoing process, not parents that it's the only thing that you should do. Your kid should be training 100% in season and out of season, especially out of season, but also in season. Once it impacts the skill development of being able to do what you need to do, then that's when they will take them inside. And most of the time, Bob, if that is the case, they will do their run periods in the beginning of practice, right, outside. And then if they have to, because of the weather or whatever, to make sure that they can get the work done, right, they will then go inside. You can do that, right, when you have multiple facilities. Not if you're the Cincinnati Bengals that do not have an indoor. You're just always outside.
Well, the Bengals have an indoor now. They got one.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
They put up a bubble?
Joe Burrow taking them to the Super Bowl. I think they got a bubble from that. So,
I'll be dadgum, man. I mean, I haven't driven through Cincinnati in a hot minute.
Driven?
So driven, it's all the same.
Yeah. But they do have to walk across the street. It's a little bit of a Texas situation. Like it's not truly on site. And I doubt that it's a full 120 yards. I'm guessing it's like a 65, 70-yard indoor probably.
Which is fine.
Yeah, which is okay. I mean, when you don't – and the thing is in the NFL, you don't have that many players, so you don't need that much space with everything with that. Now, we got a big show lined up today. We got Bill Bender coming at you, break down all the rankings from the seedings, what he likes, what he dislikes, paths to the CFP, you're through the CFP, all of those different things are going to be here for you today. Absolutely love that. That's going to be a fun time. And then I'm going to leave you with this, Schlegel, so we can get out of here. We'll talk a little conversation. Have you seen Gladiator 2 yet?
Nope, not yet. Need to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about being a dad, being a dude. Like, why don't you scoop up your boys and Faith too? My daughter ex-nayed me on that. She didn't want to go, but I took my two oldest boys last night. Yeah, we took Cullen, I took RJ. Went and watched a little 6:30 showing. It's pretty long. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes, but it's not as good as the original, but it's pretty good. And
how was Denzel?
Denzel's tremendous. He's already been nominated for a Golden Globe. Like his performance is great. It's not exactly. They could have made it even longer, to tell you the truth. And I'm a fan of long movies as long as there's pertinent details and it keeps the thing moving along. But the way they tied it in. There's a lot of parallelism with the first one. There maybe isn't like quite the sweet reveal, when he pulls the mask off in front of the emperor. I don't think you quite get that. There was maybe some spots where they could have done it, but it was still really good. Denzel, I don't want to necessarily spoil it for anybody because I had heard that he's not exactly the person that you portray him to be. In most of these, it's a little more of a Training Day feel, I think is someone told that to me. And I say that's very accurate after watching it. Gladiator is one of my all-time favorites to watch pregame. Braveheart is a little bit longer, but it's also in there as well. Like those two are 1A and B for me as far as like battle movies. And I would say this is coming in that conversation. It's going to be in the top 5 with what it's giving you.
I need to go check it out. I mean, I remember a little side nugget, long time ago, 2 decades ago, I used to listen to the Braveheart soundtrack before every game of football, probably starting in high school. And I always would go to track, I believe it was 17, where they cut him up and took out his intestines. But just the music of that thing got me going. I don't know why. And then we would go out and do our deal, and then I would come back in, and I had on like a little bit of rock for that like little 5-minute preview, because that was back in the day when we all listened to headphones. Now we just have music blaring in the locker room.
Oh yeah, it's great. But the soundtrack to Braveheart Elite, Last of the Mohicans Elite, Gladiator is Elite. Hans Zimmer did Gladiator, and it's really good. And they pull some scenes from the beginning, and the way that they do it, it looks really sweet. And then they pull some of the music, in from it as well. And like it's pretty good. You're gonna really like it. A lot of weirdness in ancient Rome. They kind of lean into some of the weirdness, Schlegs, but I know you're all about that. One guy, Schlegs, who isn't maybe into as much weirdness, but does like to get juiced up and write songs. We got Bill Bender waiting in the queue.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's going to be here for us. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about Export. Attention, parents and athletes, protect what matters most with Export mouth guards, trusted by professional athletes and designed by NHL team dentists. Export guards are scientifically tested to help absorb those high-impact hits. Export mouth guards feature 3 layers of advanced protection, including the patented use of carbon fiber, and they 3D print that thing snug right into your grill for more protection, better performance, max comfort, and clear communication. It's what you want. So you can focus on your game, not on your gear. Don't take chances with your safety. Go to exportguards.com/Bobby. Save 15% on your order. Export, protect what matters most. Bill Bender to the Sporting News coming up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer-flavored beer. Welcome back in the Bobby Carpenter Show, and as always on Tuesdays, we welcome in our friend Bill Bender of the Sporting News. And Bill, before we get going on any college football questions, I know you're in the chat probably listening a little bit to what was going on in Q. Have you seen Gladiator 2 yet?
Unfortunately, no. I obviously been busy with work and coaching and all those kind of things that we do, but I do want to go see it. I'm excited now that I got kind of your endorsement. And Schlegs, it's funny. I definitely listen to the Gladiator soundtrack when I write. Sometimes mix in Last of the Mohicans, and I'll even pull out one. I love the King Arthur soundtrack from the Clive Owen movie. Not the best movie, solid movie, but the soundtrack is amazing.
All I know is this, Bill, is like I literally can work out to track 3 of Last of the Mohicans on repeat for an hour. Every time I go back to Metroflex Gym and my buddy there, Brian Dobson, and we happen to be deadlifting, I kid you not, everybody probably, bitches and moans about like what's going on in that place because it's so loud, but he literally just puts it on repeat for like the next hour of back and legs. It's amazing. I'm excited that the fact that you write to the Gladiator soundtrack and put some of those on. Is there a rock song that you really get down to? Like an Angels and Insects is one of those ones I could just put on repeat, especially doing heavy sets of squat. Like when you're really in the midst of writing an article and like you just got to get the juices flowing. Is there a particular handful of songs like, Bad Mother Effer or American Badass or something like that? Where you're just like, that gets you fired up?
Not really. 80s hair bands. I'm into that. I think Bobby
Kickstart My Heart, like that, like something like that.
A little bit of Motley Crue and Rat and those kind of things. My buddies still make fun of me for liking Rat with 2 T's, of course. And So that, and then we go to 90s on 9 a little bit, but
Okay.
either one, 80s, 90s. That's I always tell my wife and kids, like, why are we changing it from any other state? We only need those 2 stations on Sirius,
Right.
other than the sports stations. But yeah, it's pretty easy. And obviously, we had a lot to write about over the weekend. It's been busy over here at Sporting News, but we're having a lot of fun doing it.
Oh yeah, you got the confluence of NFL, college basketball, and then obviously the college football playoff release. And Bill, that's where we'll go with you right here. When you saw it come down, I mean, with how tight some of the games were, a couple blowouts in the conference championship, but with the most of the conferences now being divisionless, saw a lot of good games. And worst case scenario probably happened for Alabama, ultimately getting SMU in with a close loss to Clemson. But kind of your initial thoughts when you saw all that come down on Sunday.
Yeah, the SMU decision was correct in the format we're in. And I'll say it, and I'll be the first to admit, if SMU played Alabama, I would pick Alabama to win the football game. I would. I think they have more talent. They played in a tougher conference. But that Oklahoma loss really stuck with me as this went on. They went down to Oklahoma, lost 24-3, disorganized the entire second half, didn't look good doing it. Now, when Clemson was up 17 points and maybe putting another touchdown in, you thought, yeah, okay, we can put Alabama in now. But SMU rallied. I'm happy for the ACC. I was happy that Dabo Swinney was happy for the ACC. I thought that was a pretty nice touch by him, advocating for SMU, because they know what it means. Now, who's going to be watching SMU? People in Columbia, people in Oxford, people in Tuscaloosa. They're going to have a lot of eyeballs on them when they go to Penn State.
Yeah, when you have a lot of eyeballs and you're in the playoff and people get left out, just like it was in 2014 when we jumped 2 teams, like you got to go get it in when you can fit it in. You're going to go play Happy Valley. It's going to be cold. It's going to be miserable. You're from Dallas, Texas, where I grew up. Like, can you handle it? So go through this now. There's been a lot of discussion. We've talked about it. It broke down this way. I think you're absolutely correct. SMU got in. Where do we make the adjustments? I'll just let you open page. Where do we make the adjustments moving forward after this year? Because it's okay. We planted the flag. We got 12 teams. All right, we need to make some changes. How do we make those changes? Bill Bender, go.
Just the big one is seed these teams properly. If you look how the rankings would be if we just use the rankings and seeded them 1 through 12, you can still have the automatic berths, but it looks so much cleaner. You have Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Penn State getting bye weeks. Then you'd have Notre Dame as a 5 seed playing Clemson. You'd have Ohio State as a 6 playing Arizona State. It just, when you play it out, it looks like it makes more sense. And maybe I'm saying that from Oregon's standpoint a little bit. Think about what the Ducks did. And this could have been Ohio State too. 13-0, and your reward is you're either going to get a rematch with Ohio State or play Tennessee, a physical running team with a really nasty defense, whereas Penn State, who lost the Big Ten championship, is going to play SMU first and then go play Boise State. Now, you tell me, out of Penn State and Oregon, who has an easier route to the semifinals? And that's because this thing is not seeded properly. That's my only really gripe with the whole thing. I'm excited about the first round matchups. I'm excited to see these games on campus. You guys were talking about the environment. I'm wondering, curiously, what the environment at Ohio Stadium is going to be with Tennessee. There's going to be how much orange is going to be there. And we finally get an SEC team up here in December. It's going to be a lot of fun to see.
And 3 of the 4 sites are going to be cold weather sites. And obviously Indiana being in the Big Ten going to Notre Dame isn't wild, but you have SMU going to Penn State and obviously Tennessee coming to Ohio State. How much do you think weather will ultimately play in to the outcomes of those games?
Well, weather and strong defenses. A lot of these teams in the first round that are playing are top 10 scoring defenses: Ohio State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Indiana, Penn State. So do we get these kind of fist fight, cold weather, 21-17 type games? That absolutely could happen. One of the things that is going to make this format work is we have to have a couple close games here in the first round. That's what I'm also concerned about. Every game, the spread is 7 points or more. So if Ohio State blows out Tennessee and Penn State wins big and Notre Dame crushes Indiana and Clemson, Texas isn't much of a game, there will be a little pushback to that. Now, the trade-off is people will say, well, the quarterfinals will be fine. Well, then why didn't we just do 8 teams in the first place? That would be my pushback. That's the easiest response to that is, well, we could have just done an 8-team playoff. That would have been fine.
Yeah, it's interesting.
No, I was going to say, based on that, what you just said, would it be fair? There's two questions here. One, just as they're already seated in this, then reseed them to where Oregon plays the lesser of them. Should should Clemson win or SMU win or Indiana win, let that go to Oregon, or whoever those four is, right? 6 through 12, the winners, they get re-ranked based on how they played, and then you go from there. Like, how would you do that? Oh, well, third question is conference championships games going to the wayside in the next 5 years? Go, Bill Bender.
I'll go in reverse order. So conference championship games will be obsolete if we go to 14 or 16 teams. Why would you want to play in that game? They were entertaining, and they did show a couple games we didn't see in the regular season because we don't, like Penn State, Oregon, we got to see it. That's fine. I thought the Georgia-Texas game was riveting entertainment. It was an awesome game, especially with Carson Beck coming out and Georgia being able to do what they did. I suppose we could go to an NFL model where the lowest seed who wins plays Oregon. And my biggest takeaway from the weekend, honestly, with the seeding was I think you could come up with 4 different ways to seed 5 through 8. And they went, obviously, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State. You could have made the argument Ohio State should be ranked ahead of Penn State by virtue of a head-to-head victory. But they did honor that Texas and Penn State put something on the line. I also don't have a problem with that necessarily. They had to play an extra hand, and both teams lost, and they kept it reasonable. So I didn't really have a problem with it. But you could have gone Notre Dame 5, Ohio State 6, Texas 7, Penn State 8, and I also would not have had a problem with it.
Well, it's interesting too, Bill. They paired Texas and Penn State with 2 other teams that played in their conference championship games. So no one has an extra week in there. At least the teams that you're playing will all be on the same level as you. And so I don't know if they'll be able to do that moving forward. And they can say that that is just merely a coincidence, but it seems like it probably wasn't. Under this, though, what do you do with the Notre Dame situation as far as, they don't have a conference championship game, and that was part of the reason why they couldn't get one of the buys, and they agreed to that. If you eliminate, and go 1 through 4, which I'm not against, and seed them straight up, how do you handle that? And is that something you just waive moving forward? Because as much as obviously as the conference championship games are, this was the best batch that we've had, and they're such big money makers. I don't see them moving off or dissipating in any way.
Yeah, I'm okay with Notre Dame getting a bye week if they deserve it. But again, you guys know I went to a Catholic high school, so I'm obviously going to throw that in there every once in a while. But I am. If they were 12-0 and Notre Dame was one of the top 4 teams in the country, they deserve it. Right now, they aren't one of the top 4 by it's close, and you got to reward those teams that play in a conference championship. I've also been pretty steadfast in saying I wish Notre Dame would just join a conference and get it over with. Would love to see them in the Big Ten or the ACC full time, so we don't have to have this conversation about them. There's no question their strength of victory isn't close to the Big Ten seeds, which makes this Indiana game so interesting because as high as that spread is, I have a feeling Indiana is going to go in there and compete because I like Indiana's defense. I like their running game. I think Curtis Rourke will test their secondary a little bit. Notre Dame has an outstanding secondary. But I think they're going to take some lessons learned from the Ohio State game, go to South Bend, and compete. So that will be a really fun first-round game to watch, especially with that in-state factor.
What did you take away from these conference championship games? So you got Carson Beck, question mark if he's going to be able to return. You have Arizona State looking so hot right now. Obviously what Oregon was able to do against a Penn State defense, but also giving up a lot in that game defensively for Oregon. And then Boise being able to run the football the way that they do. What are some of those things that you took away from the conference championship game? And who do you like right now in this CFP playoff?
Well, the first thing I took away from conference championship game was that Ohio is the MAC champion for the first time since 1968 with a convincing victory against Miami. And then our coach left for Charlotte, which was sad, but
which is crazy because is Charlotte Charlotte? Is it?
No.
I would not have said Charlotte's a better job.
No, I mean, he set at Ohio 3 straight 10-win seasons. An excellent coach, excellent recruiter, had done a good job pulling kids from Central Ohio down there. I guess maybe the difference is it's a little bit of a higher profile conference, but not by much. So
that's Conference USA, right?
Right. Like maybe. Right. So, but no, other than the obvious there, Boise was good. Boise was good running the football. Love watching Ashton Genty. The SEC championship was really entertaining. Two things there. Texas has not been able to run the ball either time they play Georgia. That has to be a concern going into the playoff because everybody will blame Quinn Ewers. Well, I said, when you run the ball 20 plus times and don't have 40 yards rushing, of course the quarterback's going to struggle. The only two games where he had a completion percentage less than 60% this season was against Georgia. So there's a little bit of pressure on Texas going into the playoff. I did not think Oregon Penn State would have 992 yards between the two teams. That was an unexpected shootout.
Did we ask James Franklin where he'd been hiding the offense like the whole year? Because I thought for their path to win, Bill, like you said, they got to win in the 20s. I mean, the better teams they played, they have not scored and have not looked prolific on offense. And all of a sudden, they're airing that thing out with Drew Aller.
Yeah, I mean, they got up and down and proved they could do that. And, then the defense, you thought maybe they could hold Oregon to 27, 24 points. Oregon just business as usual. That's a really good football team. Dylan Gabriel deserves to be in New York this weekend. He's had a fantastic season. They are going to be a tough out in the playoff, but people are kind of looking at them, at least who I've talked to, is kind of like a boring national championship pick. Everybody wants to take a Notre Dame or, a Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, but Oregon's they're 13-0 for a reason. They're going to be a tough out no matter who they play.
Man, you guys just answer questions. I'm just thinking.
How about this? Listen, we'll take a quick little break here.
I was going to actually go to Quinn Ewers.
We'll get a quick little break. We got Quinn Ewers. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some Heisman talk, and Bill also kind of teased in maybe some who would be the dark horse. I would say dark horse, but who do you like out of the first round to potentially make a run? Who could be a dark horse out of the first round to potentially make a run? More with Bill Bender, the sporting news, coming up next.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, Bill Bender, the sporting news, on with us. He's on every Tuesday, does such a fantastic job over there. Give him a follow on Twitter, Bill Bender 92, and check out all the great content that he's putting out. And Bill, you kind of teased it there, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask before we get to a little Heisman talk and maybe some of any other bowl games you might be eye hustling. First round, do you have a pick that you like to potentially win the national championship? And is there maybe a dark horse out of those 8 that maybe you think could make a run and maybe not win it, but win some games that you wouldn't expect?
Well, if we were constructing a bracket like you did in March, and I always, when I do the basketball bracket, there's 1 or 2 games you spot that are going to be down the line that you're like, I have to get that game right. Last year it would have been, Purdue and Tennessee, for example, when they played in the Elite Eight in the basketball tournament. So there's 2 games I'm looking at. One, Notre Dame, Georgia, if they play in the second round, who wins that game? That team absolutely, I think, will be in the national championship game. And I think they'll go on. If Notre Dame is able to beat Georgia, I think they'll get to the national title. And Georgia will know about Beck, will know about Gunnar Stockton, will know if Notre Dame can actually beat an SEC team. All of those things will be answered. So that's one first-round team. The other's an obvious answer, a little bit of a homer pick because we're on here, but Ohio State, Oregon is the other matchup. If Ohio State gets through Tennessee at home, which I think they will be able to, it's not going to be easy, but I think they will. They play Oregon in a rematch. We saw the first one. We know the Buckeyes have the athletes on both sides to play with Oregon. can they beat the Ducks? Because I think that team would be a threat to get to the national championship game. So Ohio State and Notre Dame are my answers. If Tennessee were able to beat Ohio State, I do like how they have some matchups, the way they run the football, they play defense. It's just a matter of, can you trust Nico Iamaleava in these big games, in these big environments?
Let's go where Bobby was going next and go to the Heisman voting, because you just saw Ashton Genty in the, Mountain West Championship game break off his sixth 200-yard rushing game. I think he's 132 yards behind Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record. Where do you see the Heisman going down? Because, yes, it's the best college football player, but when you say player, does it also
most outstanding, Schlegs? That's what
most outstanding college football player. But like into that, there's a lot of variables, right? And trust me, I love what Travis Hunter does. I mean, he's a guy that can play multiple positions. He is such an anomaly, playing 130 plus snaps a game, something like that's absolutely asinine, right? What he's being able to do, but also what Ashton Genty has been able to do as a running back. Plus, I'm kind of biased because he went to Frisco Lone Star down in Frisco, Texas, and the head football coach of that high school is a childhood friend of mine. So where do you see this Heisman voting playing out in New York?
Well, I voted on it yesterday, which I pinch myself every year when I do that, because you're like, wow, this is my favorite award, my favorite trophy. We're not allowed to say who we voted for, but I can break down how I think it might go with those guys. I'm happy that Dylan Gabriel and Cam Ward are going to be invited. I mentioned Gabriel earlier, to be able to go 13-0 and be as efficient as he is. Cam Ward, a true game changer for the Hurricanes. If we had a 14 or 16 team format, Miami would be kind of that team. I'd be like, I don't know if I want to play them. They lead the FBS in scoring, and they have Cam Ward. I mean, he would probably be the highest ranked quarterback in the college football playoff at that point. Ashton Genty's amazing, Schlegs. What more can you do? All the 30 carry games, handles the load, breaks off a couple big runs every single week. Showed out against that Oregon game I go back to, is where you kind of open your eyes and you're like, wow, this isn't just another group of 5 running back. He's a superstar. And then Travis Hunter, at first this season, I was skeptical. I was saying, well, we saw him play every snap last season. What's the big deal? The difference this year is he would make the big catch at the right time all the time. Started with the North Dakota State game, that kind of 2-hand catch that he made through a guy, and went from there. Interceptions at the right time. Tremendous athlete. You guys probably have a better feel for this than I do, actually, is I don't know what he'll do in the NFL. I don't know if they can actually pull off playing every snap. I don't think you can. No. And I'm not sure if he's a better corner or wide receiver. So I'm really curious to see how he's used at the next level. I would guess receiver. You guys might have a different answer.
Yeah, receiver's easier, and you could probably spot play on defense as opposed to maybe the other way around. And I'm guessing, Bill, this is where the world we're living in now. Everything's so financially driven, and you see the numbers that some of those top 5 receivers are getting on a contract. I think he'd probably lean into that and then maybe say, hey, I can give you 25% of the snaps on defense and play third downs or whatever it is, and be able to do that. But you mentioned the 2 quarterbacks, Genty and Gabriel. Do you think, as the collective, because I voted too, and I looked at that, I was like, okay, that looks pretty good to me. The way it works, for anybody out there who doesn't know, because people are like, who did you vote for? I'm like, well, you get 3 votes. You get a first, second, and third, and then they kind of tally it up, and they find that delineating mark where there's a drop. Sometimes it's 3, 4, or 5 that go. But do you feel like they got it right? Is there anybody that you think should have possibly been invited that maybe didn't garner enough votes?
I want to see if Cam Scadaboo finished 5th. Yeah. Honestly, man. I think he's such a fun player, and I am curious to see who finished 5th in the voting. And he had just an awesome season, helped carry that, like Schleg said, this really hot Arizona State team down the stretch. And he's kind of the center of that, built to the ground running back, doing what he's doing. Or if it was Shedeur Sanders that finished 5th, which would have been interesting, because that would have potentially sent 2 Colorado guys to New York that will be right back there as top 5 picks.
So with that, because I always wait until on Monday, I was like panicking. I'm like, when's the cutoff? Like, I forgot it was at 5. I thought it was maybe at noon. So I was scrambling to get my vote in the morning, because Sunday just was such a blur with all the college football selection release, and I had forgot to do it. But I always want to wait until after the conference championship games. And I don't necessarily hold that against other guys, but it is another data point. It's an opportunity for players who are on good teams to be able to showcase that. And everybody that was involved, including, Shedeur, Travis Hunter, I mean, they had a chance to get there with 2 or 3 weeks left in the season. And so I look at that and I try to parcel that out. How much hit has your vote, obviously without revealing who you voted for, but if you would have voted week 6, how much different would it have been at the end of the season?
Probably a little bit, and that was the good thing. It didn't change drastically from conference championship weekend, but it was influenced. And I think that's what makes it beautiful, that I always wait till Monday morning, till everything's done, till the emotion of the playoff show's done. And then you go from there. I think it'll be a fun presentation. And I love watching that show every season.
Hey, I'm going to ask you this, Bill. We'll get you out with this one. So, I'm just throwing up some stuff. OSU, right? Only team that's had 4 CFP appearances the last 6 years, 6 consecutive top 5 recruiting classes. You look at buyouts, you look at staff, you look at signing day, you look at NIL of your current roster. How much of all of this plays into coaching changes? Because, again, in around Columbus, Ohio, we've heard so much about it. And it's not just Columbus, Ohio, it's other places around the country. How much is all of that playing into now decisions? Because it's not like 5 years ago when you could just make a change, somebody buys somebody out. Same thing happened this year in Florida, right? They started winning, but he also has a great recruiting class, and he has Lagway there. It's like, you know what, we're going to ride with them. Let's just put the money into the portal or into our NIL for our own guys. How much is all of that now going into the decisions that ADs are making when they're looking at hiring a head football coach?
A lot. The buyout matters. Where am I going to allocate these resources to? I think what's changing, at least I think it's changing, is it might be less on the performance centers and the stadium and all those kind of things. And it's going more to the players. You got to get the players in that's priority number one, the players. Then you have to have your coaches paid, then the staff and everything else around it. And Ohio State's obviously operated like not an NFL franchise, but in that vein, for sure. The Ohio State, Georgias, Alabamas, those type schools do operate like that. So you can't just fire a coach on a whim, which it's set up a little bit differently than the NFL, where they can, right? Yeah. They do it mid-season, postseason. There's guys that go to the playoff, the wild card round, the divisional round, they might get fired. So
why is that? Why can they do that though, Bill?
I think the buyout, for starters. I mean, that's probably something that will change in college football. I think coaches will be paid more like NFL coaches instead of college football coaches. That's a speculative thing, because as you've seen, there have been 24 FBS coaches changes this cycle. 20 of those are group of 5, Anthony. Those are easier to fire a group of 5 coach right now than a power 4 coach. The only 4, Gus Malzahn left. Mac Brown was let go kind of unceremoniously. And then Purdue, which that was performance. And I'm missing one, and I'm really ashamed that I'm missing one. But West Virginia, Neil Brown. Yeah. So they didn't make a bowl game performance based. So it's a little bit harder to hire. Go ahead.
No, the other thing though is, like, in the NFL, players are under contract. They're staying with that team, right? Whereas now our guys, they can leave. Any athlete can leave any single time, anytime they want to. So the coaching staying and the relationships that they built, what can their guys do? Because now they can jump in the portal twice a year. That's another thing.
I think you should have players sign 2-year contracts to start their college career. That would be my solution. I know we're a long way from it, but why, you have to stay 2 years if you're going to be paid any amount of money from the school or NIL, and that allows freshmen to develop properly. I think it's really hard for college coaches to preach program building when guys come and go as they have been able to come and go in the transfer portal, and their job has been made that much more difficult.
Oh, it's crazy. I was talking to some of the coaches today at Ohio State just about their solutions for it. And Bill, I know we'll get into that as the season wraps up and there's some more time in the off season, but the dual portal window has been very tough. But we appreciate some time today. Kept you way too long.
That's right.
Great job. Go check his stuff out. The Sporting News at Bill Bender 92 on X. We appreciate your time, sir, as always.
Hey, I'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks so much for having me.
He's one of the best to do it. Bill Bender. We got our headlines, some big ones coming up next.
On.
The Big Play Sports Network. Download the free app today to watch all of your favorite hosts on demand.
I'm Garage Beer, and this is Bobby Carpenter.
Garage beer. Beer flavored beer.
Beef with an F? Okay, my bad. It's crisp and cool, and it doesn't taste like... I'm Bobby Carpenter. I drink in garages because my wife says I don't belong inside. If you like a cold breeze on your bag, drink Garage Beer. It's American, and so can you. Garage Beer. Beer flavored beer. All right, welcome back in to the Bobby Carpenter Show. Bill Bender did such a tremendous job with us. Now we got time to get to some of our headlines. And this is what's interesting, Schlegel, these on-site location games for the playoff, what that's going to look like, what it's going to cost you to get in. And a lot of people now, their tickets are opening up to the public. Usually goes to season ticket holders first, students, and then public tickets that are out there. Notre Dame, I mean, they're close to $1,000. It's like $850 to sit at the top row in the end zone. Penn State, maybe not quite as much. SMU doesn't have the big fan base. And like if you look at that, you can dial down in there. There's some of their seats that you can get in. Now they're not the best, but you can get into to Beaver Stadium for $100.
Beaver Stadium, baby. You got sheets out there, but so does Columbus, Ohio now. Awesome, go Bucks.
But does that surprise you that you can get in there for $100? I mean, given
no, it's Happy freaking Valley, guys. There's nothing out there. I mean,
yeah, but so they sell that out for all their big games. I mean, this is just thinking. Those are.
Trust me, I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's like that. Maybe you just got to go do some ticket giveaways. Trade it in for some milk from the Amish people. I don't know, but like whatever you got to do, fill that thing because. That's definitely going to come into play as do we use bowl games for these things? I like the home. I think the home
bowl
games
really, they're not going to go to bowl. You're having hard people filling up their own stadiums. You're not going to make them travel. I guess SMU just doesn't have a very big fan base, and I don't know if that's their alumni just isn't big.
It shouldn't play a factor. Shouldn't play a factor in any of these things. But again, Beaver Stadium is enormous, Bob. Like it is huge. So surprised that it's still only that little for a first time, right? You only get one time to be a first time. So make memories.
I guess students are saying the CFB took a huge amount of tickets, took back a huge amount of tickets in the student section back. So we'll see because it's been typically like, I guess the way they set it up is it's like a home game for Penn State. So the allotment for SMU is like their 3,500 or whatever they would normally get and something like that. I think that's what it is for Ohio State, Tennessee. And we'll see ultimately how that moves going forward. And then I saw this out here, and this Oregon's the number one seed, and rightfully so. They're undefeated. They played a tough schedule. And this is very interesting to see. Penn State hasn't been in the Big Ten forever, but they've been in here for 30 years. And the fact that he threw this stat out here about Oregon and their how proficient they were this year, with their victory over Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, they were the only team in the history of college football to beat Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State in the same season.
Wow, that's amazing. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that. That's pretty damn good. Way to go, Dan Lanning. Tosh Loophole, I see you, bro. I actually texted him after that game, man. Congrats. Not finished. And that's the thing, right, Bob? Like you and I know so many people across the college landscape. And again, I root for people, but I also root for the Buckeyes when they're going against Oregon, right? And Tosh has done a great job with the mindset of his defense. They're really physical up front. They can get after the quarterback, but man, what a great opportunity for all these people going into this first college football playoff expanded version.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, that's it for headlines. We got some tailgate talk with your comments and questions from yesterday's show coming up next.
Get the most out of work, life, and all your outdoor adventures with top-selling upgrades for your truck. Guaranteed fit, free shipping, easy install, expert support, and thousands of dealers just a click away. Bring your truck to life. Real Truck. Upgrade today and save between $50 and $400 on select Real Truck products. Visit realtruck.com/specials.
All right, we're going to some of our questions. Our tailgate talk brought to you by our friends over at Real Truck. And Real Truck, listen, hopefully you got a chance to participate in their Cyber Monday and Cyber Week that ended December 8th on Sunday. Still got some great deals, still got some great stuff out there, and they still have our promotion that's going to be offered here through the Bobby Carpenter Show. If you're going to go there and try to soup up your truck, Jeep, or Bronco, listen, they've got stuff on the inside, the outside, interior, exterior. It's all there for you. Spend $100, use promo code Bobby at checkout. You're going to get yourself a free Real Truck hat. The purchase of $100 or more, go to realtruck.com. Get the hat for free when you spend over $100. All right, Schlegel, we got some comments here.
Let's do it.
From yesterday's show, and that was pretty interesting. Your boy Honky Kong, 4674.
Nice.
Yeah, you should, because it's a pro Schlegel comment. If I were Bob's marketing team, I would let Schlegel rant all he wants instead of shutting him down at the end. The one thing folks don't understand is Schlegel has time is confusing to him. And so while we have time allotments we're trying to hit, Schlegel somehow doesn't look at the clock and has no idea where we're at.
Because I'm looking at my green dot right in front of my face, man. I'm like a schizophrenic cat. It's okay. But I also have experience that I played in college football. I coached in college football. I played in the NFL. I coached in the NFL. And we just try to keep it real. And I appreciate everybody's comments out there. Thank you.
Hugh Morris is the Joker said, Ohio State better win the home game at least. They should be coaching for his job. I don't think that's an accurate statement. He should be coaching for it. I feel like he'll be aggressive and coaching, very passionately, and saying win the home game at least. I mean, you're playing another team in the top 10. Like, yes, you want to win this game. You're favored to win this game, and I think they should. But saying should win it at least implies like you're playing, a Rutgers team or Purdue. Like, this game isn't going to be a given. You're going to have to go out there. You're going to have to execute to get it done.
I think what he's trying to say and what a lot of fans say is you got to play out of just wanting to win outside of playing with fear, right? And I think that the hesitancy that's basically what you're articulating. Not better go win this game. Just go out there, drop your sack and attack. I just said your quote for you. I got you.
I like it, Schlegel. All right, this comes from YX5881. He's got a lot of comments in here.
I like this guy.
And it's good. It's all good. My gosh. We'll start with this.
Pick the juiciest, frothiest.
Oh, it is. There's a chain, so I'm trying to figure out what the best part is. As much
Two
as
Chains has a cookbook.
Well, much as I love my Buckeyes, most every aspect of this game does not bode well for us. In fact, it goes against us, to be honest. If I were a gambling man, I would bet heavily on Tennessee. I'm so sorry to say, but that's what I see. I can see them crushing us maybe by 2 TDs. More honestly, I get no joy in saying it, but trust me, I do think we could win this game if the players decide to win it. Even though, as I said below, I think about everything is stacked against us in this game and beyond. You guys can win it if they decide to do what it takes, and they can beat anyone. I hope they can. A lot of back and forth in there internally, Schlegel, that he's trying to deal with. He or she's trying to deal with. It's not the easiest draw. They didn't get SMU. I mean, Ohio State has the toughest path. If you look at who they would have to play with Tennessee, Oregon, potentially Texas, Georgia, should they win on the other side of the bracket. But you know what? It is what it is. Like, you're going to have to beat good teams to win a national championship. Tennessee's offense is a running offense. Their defensive line is really good. Some places that Ohio State's maybe struggle a little bit. I think defensively, Ohio State will be fine. The question is, Schlegel, can they run the ball, and then can they spread it out, use some tempo, maybe screens and draws to slow down a good pass rush and front for Tennessee?
And in their losses, they were not – I'm talking about Tennessee. They were not able to affect the quarterback, and that's the biggest thing in this game. How can we basically win first and second down to pressure a freshman quarterback in a hostile environment? And two, how do we protect Will Howard with our offensive line? In their 2 losses, they had 0 sacks. I think they might have had 2 versus Arkansas, but like 2 in those 2 games doesn't bode well for them. That's kind of our recipe for success. but we got to figure out what is our identity coming off that last game, as opposed to just trying to run the rock. Like, what are we going to do? What's the game plan offensively? And do the players believe in it?
Absolutely. And then lastly, we'll get you with this. Listening to some of the other Buckeye podcasts drive me nuts. Well, don't listen to the other ones then. You can tell who doesn't have a linebacker's mentality. People whining because of the perceived path to the championship because we got Tennessee at home at night, complaining Penn State gets SMU and then Boise. To quote the great number one, just bring it. Give me Tennessee, give me Oregon, give me Texas, and give me Georgia, and then build the damn Ryan Day statue right next to Archie. As my dad said, it's not the problem that's the problem. It's the solution to the problem that becomes the problem. First solution, beat the hell out of Tennessee. Side note, Rocky Top is one of the worst written songs of all time. Garage beer lined up. Cold garage beer lined up for December 21st at 8 p.m. LFG, Ohio State. That cold garage beer is great, but it's going to be chilly outside. But I like Joe Brown, his comments there. I mean, that's what it is. You can complain about it, but, like you put yourself in this situation. And I honestly like the fact there's no anticipation of like, you should win this game. You have to go win it, Schlegs.
Yeah. Go win it. As he was talking about, what do you say? Just spot the damn ball, right? Just spot the damn ball. And here's the deal. You go to that, let's say, again, you controlled everything. We talked about Alabama not getting in. You had 3 losses in your conference. You controlled everything. You had a 24-3 loss. Ohio State beat Michigan. Even if you did lose to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, which I don't think they would have, right? But you're still going to be seated where you are, and there's that path. It doesn't matter. Just play them. It's not our fault. It's just how the matchups came this year that you played Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana all in the same year. So whatever, right? Every year people are going to be up and down. You just got to go win. And the biggest thing in this game, don't play out of fear. Play out the love of winning. Just go freaking win. Every single snap, win. Win your one-on-ones. Do your damn job. Win.
Absolutely. Coming up next, get the parting thoughts from Schlegs as we wrap up the Bobby Carpenter Show. All right, Schlegs, 30 seconds to wrap us up.
Oh, man. Hey, one of the things I got from the weekend of the college football playoff or of the conference championship games was this interview where they have a SEC coaches group chat. And again, we have a group chat, Bob, with some former guys, and it's quite comical. And the fact that these guys have it, and also the fact that the one that stirs the pot the most in it is a guy that they did not mention, but everybody knows who he is, and it's Lane Kiffin. It just brought joy to it brought a smile to my face because I'm 43. There's you guys that are like 41 and a half. There's some younger guys in it that I coached. It is quite hysterical. The things that are said make me smile. And knowing that college football coaches have the same thing going on, it's like, man, do not leave this conference. That guy is amazing. Like, I can't believe they fired him. What are we going to do in the group chat? Who's going to be that guy? They're like probably in the group chat. Who are they going to hire? Oh man, this guy's going to be good. Can't wait to hear what he's going to say in the group chat. Anyways, brought a smile to my face.
Proof David Copperfield. That's it for today's show. Stay locked in. 12:30 live tomorrow. If Schleich shows up on time, we'll be ready to rock here on the Bobby Carpenter Show.